This podcast is brought to you by the Islamic Center and NYU. For more information, visit our website at www.icnyu.org.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the Master of the Day of Judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, to His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the Master of the Day of Judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in his path until the last day. It is said when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was with his companions as the blessed month of Ramadan came upon them, that he gave them quite explicit indication upon its arrival. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells them that the month of Ramadan has come, a blessed month in which Allah Azza wa Jal has obligated you to fast. That in it, the gates of Jannah, they are opened, and in it, the gates of Jahannam, they are closed, and in it, the shayateen, they are chained, and in it, there is one night that is better than 1,000 months. Thus, anyone who is deprived of it is deprived of all good. And where you and I are now just moments away from a blessed month, a month of maghfirah, a month of reflection, a month of rahmah, a month of compassion, a month of rejuvenation, a month of replenishment, a month that we might not even be fully aware just how badly we are in need of it. You want to, in these last moments of Sha'ban, first and foremost, recognize the bounty and gift and see it as something that is actively welcomed, the way the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam encouraged his companions to welcome it. And to understand, just as you would invite anything into your life, it's something that you individually make a determination as to how you are going to bring it into your day and your routine. That it is not for anybody else to take advantage of your Ramadan more so than just you. And in these moments, on this Mubarak day of Jummah, you want to be able to start to reflect. And if you haven't already, to create strategy that says, what is it that I'm envisioning for myself to take from it? Contemplation and reflection is not just done in retrospect. It's not about me making sense of what happened to me yesterday or many yesterdays ago. But you can contemplate, you can reflect upon things that are forthcoming. And as you go now into just mere hours before the sun sets upon us, and may Allah enable us to reach the month of Ramadan, you envision that when you are standing, inshallah, on the 1st of Shawwal, the day of your Eid, your holiday, what will you be celebrating in terms of successes that the coming weeks brought for you? And how are you envisioning for yourself on this day a strategy that allows for you to have that success that is rightfully yours? And a success that is not rooted simply in that which is external or outward, but a success that recognizes that this is a month that is about inward transformation, a month that is about regaining my ability to self-regulate, A month that is about me now reharnessing control of myself in totality, so that it is my heart that is sovereign over my deeds and decisions, and not anything that is merely a satisfaction of the physicality of life that governs the choices that I choose. Ramadan has never been about empty stomachs. It's always been about full hearts. The ability to now regain a relationship with what it is that governs our entire existence. And to understand that framework, if you're looking for a way to strategize, start now by thinking about what's the day around me going to look like. But start by thinking how I relate the day to the world that's existing within me. Ala wa inna fil jasadi mudghatan, the Prophet ﷺ says that indeed in your jasad, in your body, there is a morsel of flesh. إِذَا صَلُحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ, that if it is good, then the entire being is good. If it is not good, the entire being will not be good. Ala wa hiya al-qalb, indeed it's your heart, your spiritual heart. There's a spiritual master in our tradition by the name of Dhunun al-Misri, rahimahullah. He is known to have authored many works and has many wisdoms and sayings, in particular about the world that exists within us. And he gives us context now if you are looking to see how can this be a Ramadan of the heart, as to how to utilize the blessing of this month through some of his counsels in a way that removes a lot of the layers that we don't even know cloak our inside at times. Before you think about how this applies to you practically, take a moment now in just reflection and contemplation. What's going on in your heart at this moment? What is it that it is attached to? What are the things that your heart loves? What are the things that your heart is harboring? The characteristics of it, if you were to define it for yourself and make a mental note into a piece of paper that you are writing now from within, would you describe it as a heart that is alive and awake, or one that is just in a state of lifelessness? Would you describe it as a heart that is rooted and attached to matters of envy and bitterness, jealousy, animosity? A heart that compels you to draw towards gossiping and backbiting, cheating, arrogance in all of its forms, most apparent and subtle, racism in the ultimate form of pride. May Allah protect us from these things. Would you identify your heart as being one that is gentle and tender, one that is soft, one that is willing to take advice and counsel, one that is adopting a growth mindset that allows for me to take on whatever challenges that face me with perseverance and resilience? Identifying its nature to you is an important starting point, because yours beats within you just like mine beats within me. And if I'm not attuned to the realities that are taking place within, it doesn't mean that they're still not happening. And defining and identifying it now, is it in a place that it's subservient to your whims and desires? Is it in a place where it lets the nafs be tyrannical, the lower self, the ego? Or is your heart in control of the rest of your being? And may Allah grant us all hearts that are sovereign over us. Dhunun al-Misri, he talks about a concept that's called the qaswatul qalb, the hardness of the heart. And he identifies it as a concept that we find in the Quran. It speaks about it again over and over and over. A hardness of the heart, a hardness of the heart. You don't want to engage it with trepidation. You want to engage it with reality. That who I am today cannot meet who I can be tomorrow if I'm scared to admit who I am in my totality. And that's not about self-deprecation. Ramadan is a month in which the shayateen are chained. Don't go in these last moments in a place where you give shaitan victory over you, that your mind ultimately takes you to a place of inadequacy, where I'm lacking, where I'm not good enough. But to embrace your own capacity to be a source of luminosity, to recognize the blessing and benefit that comes from you uniquely. And with confidence, you appreciate the God-given talents that Allah has endowed you with. in order for you to use those gifts in the ways that he intended you to use them, you have to first admit that you possess them in the first place. And with your strengths, you can acknowledge non-strengths as well. A recognition of it now in the mode of hardness, that you might not have that in your lexicon day to day if you've never thought about the state of your heart. But thinking about it in terms of agitation, if it doesn't feel good inside. Think about it if it's carrying heaviness within it, a place that you want to feel light. Can we have everyone move up again, please? It's going to be a good number of people joining, so if you can fill up spots where you can, and if possible, you move the row over to the side so that as people are walking in, they're able to not clutter over here. And so identify that for yourself. What the Nun al-Misri is going to tell us, you feel that heaviness in your heart. You feel something that doesn't feel right. You feel a fear that is not a healthy fear, but one that has you walking on eggshells. An anxiety that is not telling you to be cautious in a way that is empowering, but an anxiety that's overwhelming, that you don't know how to engage. If your heart's not feeling right, he says, here's some things that you can do. He says that if you have a desire for the hardness of your heart to leave, those feelings that don't feel so well, the first advice he gives, he says, and endure in fasting. Ramadan is quite heavily associated with this ritual act. For those of us who have the physical capacity, we are healthy enough to do it. And ailments that are not just in a physical nature, but if we have emotional conditions, mental wellness conditions, to broaden your scope as you sit here, to recognize that your experiences might not be anyone else's, but as you traject now this movement forward, you're able to still associate with yourself. The capacity to fast is a gift. Be grateful for it. Because there's many who wish they could, who used to be able to and are not able to any longer. Who might be in spaces where it's temporary and some that it's something that's terminal. فَأَدْمِ الصِّيَامِ, to endure in fasting, means that when you now have a choice to think about the routine is not meant to alter itself in the course of daylight hours. But you still go to work and you fast. You still exert yourself in physical exercise and you fast. You still go to your exams and your meetings and your classes and you fast. If you go in with a mindset that says that I somehow have to remove myself from the situation, or perhaps I won't do it on a certain day because of something else, then you're not understanding the basic purpose of the fast. The idea is to not now remove away from the world, but to use that as a tool through which you understand the world differently. And as you go through the physicality of it, the first few days, if you haven't practiced yet, they're going to give you a headache potentially. You're going to start to feel the detox of all kinds of things that you put into your body. But once you get over it and the body adjusts and adapts, you're going to now have a different kind of focus. You're going to be able to understand your capacity to perform in ways that you couldn't. And where the doubts come in Sha'ban, that's coming from Shaitan, because he wants you to move away from what is actually a ni'mah, a gift for you. Fa'adam is-siyam is not about just fast, enduring in the fast, whether it is hard or whether it is easy, whether you have a pre-med exam or you have a paper due, whether the meeting of your life is happening tomorrow. If you have the capacity to, then you should do it. And allow for yourself to not be scared to meet the potential of what you are embodying of capacity. There is not a person who has a seriousness of their spiritual diet in our tradition that did not have a regular fast. And it counters now the consumer-driven society that we live and heavily are embedded in, that tells you that your happiness is based on purchasing what it is that it's selling to you, that constantly tells you that you should endeavor to feed yourself and feed yourself and feed yourself, regardless of what it costs somebody else for you to have the lifestyle that you do. What a lot of people learned 2 years ago in the onset of the pandemic was that we didn't really need to buy as many of the things that we were buying. If you're sitting here right now, and may Allah grant peace to all those that we lost to COVID-19, and bring ease to the hearts of all those who lost loved ones and faced trauma and homelessness and food insecurity and illness. But to recognize and understand that you are still seated where you are seated, and you went through realities where you couldn't go to a restaurant every other day, where you couldn't go to a store every other day, where you weren't buying and purchasing things every other day. And you still were able to go, still be able to move. Contentment is not attached to being in a space where you own many things around you. The true richness is not having an abundance of things of the earth, but true richness is having the richness of your soul. So the best of creation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so when that opportunity comes to fast, you don't just push it away. You have anxiety, good. Be nervous. You want to treat it with delicacy. But allow for yourself to gain confidence that says that if I'm going to let it go for some reason, it better be worth it. And the only reason that you want to let it go is for the price of paradise. Because the hadith tells us that for certain actions and deeds, there are different ajrs. But straight, it says that the reward for fasting, Allah says, that comes from Him. Because you're fasting for His sake. You're doing it for the right reason, you're going to have the energy to take on anything that comes in your day when you're fasting. فَأَدِمِ الصِّيَامِ. He says, if you still find hardness in your heart, فَأَطْلِ الْقِيَامِ, then make your standing longer, in reference to the night prayer. And so if you're trying to create a strategy for yourself, one, if you have the means to fast, fast. If you don't have the means to fast, Allah will reward you for your intention. And as you deepen in it now, فَأَطْلِ الْقِيَامِ, utilize the nights. Ramadan is not about being in a state of fasting in the day and then you just give up when the night comes. It's not about overindulging now and gorging when sunset is upon you. But as you start to see the impact on your physical self, as you let go of just pure consumption, you're going to also start to see energy come to you from ways outwardly, as well as the barakah of the month. And the irony of the nights in our tradition is that when they reach their darkest of shades, it creates the most immense opportunity for luminosity of the self. You're going to have prayers taking place here every single night. And if you can't make it here, then you still have room wherever you can go to pray a couple of extra rak'ahs, to make some dua. These are nights in which you want to be talking to Allah. Nights in which you are taking advantage of, that you are making a point of rest through the remembrance of the divine. If it's intimidating, you've never done it before, that's okay. Let it be the first time of many times. You don't want to undermine and say that somebody else is able to do it for hours and hours. You work at a pace that makes sense for you. In the contrary of that, don't use the nights for things that don't make sense. If you have to study, study hard. If you have to rest for an important meeting, do it. That's fine. All of this can be ibadah. But the fasting of the day is meant to create a consciousness that goes into the night hours. You don't want to plan to anticipate that once the fast is done, with immediacy, you turn back to the vices that your body is getting used to leaving behind. So don't smoke that smoke that you went through the whole day not smoking. It's not good for your body to smoke. And whether that's a cigarette, whether that's hookah, whether that's anything else, you don't need it. That's what Ramadan is teaching you. And you don't want to be the reason that somebody else runs to it. You definitely don't drink that drink that causes you to lose reality for moments. It's also not the time to turn into the night gatherings where you sit and speak ill of people. There's not the hours that you want to gossip and backbite. You don't want to engage in the haram in those ways. But use the night for something that is a benefit for you. Use it to engage in what you have capacity to learn about yourself. فَأَتْلِ الْقِيَامِ. He says, if you still find hardness, فَذَرِ الْحَرَامِ, then refrain from that which is haram. You want to deepen an understanding of what the word haram means. Because it's not just the consumption of pork or the drinking of alcohol or the committing of zina. But backbiting is haram. Lying is haram. Breaking promises, oaths, these things are haram. Engaging in a way where you mistreat others. An absence of compassion. What should a transformed heart look like that experiences Ramadan? And how do you enable for yourself to envision that? Think right now. What is it that you are going to do that's going to be the first thing that's going to bring darkness to your heart? You want to try your best. A lot of us don't turn towards haram things because we're bad people. And there's not any one of us in this room could say that I don't do haram. Because if that's what you're saying, then you're lying, which is haram, so you did it. The opportunity to recognize that shaitan's goal is to increase your mindset in a way that believes not that you committed an act that's problematic. That's not the point. The point is to get you to a place where when you commit the act, you believe now you're not entitled to a relationship with Ar-Rahman. The idea is to bring you to a place that says, I'm somehow the worst of the worst. To get you to dislike yourself. To believe that you cannot now stand in prayer. And for the rest of us to understand that these are important nights and important days for everybody. And so somebody's going to walk through a door coming in, not knowing that there's this many Muslims in this space. And it'll be intimidating. It'll be difficult. And it's not meant to be lip service, but remember who your teacher is, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What would he do if somebody new came in? What did he do when somebody who struggled with their lifestyle decisions participated in the community? A man who struggled with drinking alcohol came to take the had punishment. There are narrations in our tradition where our prophet would joke with this person. When he came to struggle, there was others who would speak poorly of him. And our prophet said to those people, as well as for us to hear, do not assist shaitan in victory over your brother. Indeed, he loves Allah and his messenger. You've heard it from us for the last month and a half. Inclusivity, kindness, smile. People are coming. Be ready. You got to translate now from what goes in through here, synthesize it with a heart that wants to be full, and decide what would keep you from being the person that smiles at somebody. Ask them if they need anything. A lot of people turn away from religion because of religious people. It's not a month for you to be harsh. It's not a month for you to look down. The worst form of haram is arrogance. May Allah protect us from it. And when you look at somebody, if you only see where they are lacking, including if you're looking at yourself and all you see is inadequacy, it's telling you a lot about who you are. It's okay for you to love yourself. And the difficulty in harnessing love in its fullest sometimes comes because there's parts of ourselves that we don't like so much. And if you're on the outside looking in at somebody and all you see is what is perceived flaw, that's not a heart that is living in Ramadan. That's not basira, a vision of the heart. So try your best with strategy. Go at a pace that makes sense for you. The fourth thing, the Nun al-Misri says that if you still find that hardness in your heart, fasil al-arham, then reestablish the bonds of kinship. The majority of issues that come into my office are people who have problems with their family. There is not a prophet that we are taught about did they not have challenges with a family member? Adam alayhi salam literally has a son who kills the other. Yusuf alayhi salam's brothers, out of hearts that are not doing well, throw him into a pit, into a well. And Yaqub alayhi salam cries so much as a result of it, he loses his eyesight. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has uncle after uncle, family member after family member that are of his staunchest of opponents. You don't want to engage religion at this point in your life as a set of platitudes or Sunday school sound bites that now create opportunity for dissonance to be the way that you move forward, and then it just creates chaos within you. But understanding that beyond circumstances of abuse, beyond situations that none of us should ever feel or put someone in, those bonds of kinship are important. You are away from family this Ramadan and you miss family and you long to be with family and you don't know how to do Ramadan on your own for the first time, even when you're surrounded with people. Pick up the phone and call them and say that I love you. If you have opportunity to heal and forgive as your right, not a responsibility, because forgiveness is for the forgiver. The Silil Arham is rooted in an idea that we share kinship because of a bond that we have from the Rahim, the womb. It has the same root as Rahma, mercy. It shouldn't be lost upon us that the first abode that Allah introduces us to in this worldly existence is an abode of mercy, the Rahim. And it gives an amazing illustration that as the life within it expands, so too the womb expands, because mercy is expansive, it's not restrictive. My 6-year-old son, my 9-year-old daughter, they bicker like crazy over just silly things. Half the time, I don't even know why they fight with each other. And I sat down with them the other day and I tried to explain to them what this means. That you have a bond of kinship at the level of the Rahim. I said, do you understand, Medina and Kareem, that you are the only two people in the world who lived in your mother's womb? That there's nobody else that shares that bond except the two of you. And this is where we are taught to maintain that bond of kinship, a uniqueness that is rooted now in something that literally nobody else in the world can say other than the two of you that you shared that space together. What the Nun al-Misri is saying is that you don't have to pretend like family isn't tough. You don't have to pretend like people don't get in your face and they annoy you and irritate you. You don't have to justify people's abuse of you. Some parents are not good parents. Some elders are not good elders. Some children are also not good children. Allah protect us from all of these things. But sometimes that little crevice comes into our being and it becomes widened and widened. And it now becomes pervasive and it starts to kill our inside. And so he's saying, you still find hardness? Fasil al-arham, reestablish the bonds of kinship. In the context of a Ramadan that's upon us, you got to understand that there's going to be some people who are with you in these days and nights of Ramadan, that their parents are not happy that they're Muslim. There's going to be some people who they would love to establish those bonds of kinship, and they come from homes that are filled with toxicity and negativity. And so you might not share blood with somebody in that way, but you elevate the reality of what it means to be a sister and brother. And you check in on others. You let yourself be present because you know that your presence in a space is going to ensure that when someone else walks in, they find you sitting there as well. Fasil al-arham, create new bonds in this month of Ramadan. And then he says, if you still find hardness, فَأَلْتِفْ بِالْأَيْطَامِ, then be gentle to the orphan. And the specificity of it should not be lost upon us. That we have narrations in our tradition that tell us that the way you and I look into the heavens and we see stars shining down upon us as the night falls, the angels, when they look down into this worldly existence, the homes that have orphans being cared for within them, they shine to them the way the stars shine to us. But in general, you draw from it also the idea that this coming month, you engage in a lot of acts of volunteerism. You engage in acts of kindness, acts of compassion. Start your day with suhoor and then plan out, what is the act of beauty that's going to come from me today? Who am I going to be a source of light for? How am I going to replenish and rejuvenate myself? Not by just the passive act of fasting. The act increases as I increase in heedfulness. My awareness goes up, and I pay attention to everything that's going on around me. So when I get on the bus and everybody's grumpy, I'm going to say thank you to the bus driver. When I buy anything from any store, I'm going to check in with the person across the counter. Are you doing okay? I'm going to take my time to be in a space where presence is there. And then in a broader sense, where I can play a role in ensuring that there are those who are in need that are not forgotten. We're going to be raising money for the people of Afghanistan this Ramadan, where 23 million people are on the brink of starvation, where this country took whatever remaining assets left for those people. And somebody might say, why should I do it when the government's not doing it? You should do it because you're Muslim. And somebody else doing something rooted in idiocy and greed and egocentricity means that you should be doing it with that much more love, that much more mercy, that much more compassion. 23 million people who have gone through a severe winter, living in spaces where their entire existence is not about the day ends and what am I going to eat? But many of them, whether the sun is up or not, they're going to have no food. Just like people who are blocks away from where we live right now. And there's going to be no shortage of opportunity to be a source of real benefit for people. But you will have to determine that for yourself. Nobody is going to compel or force you into it. In these days that we have ahead of us, set for yourself a standard now in these last hours of Shaban. Dunun al-Misri's advices. Adin al-Siyam, endure in fasting. Don't give up on it for anything that pushes you away. If you have questions, you don't know what to do, reach out to us. We'll talk it out with you. If you see somebody who's not fasting, mind your business. Don't get in their grill. Use the nights for what they were intended for. Use this entire day, 24/7, in the way God gave it to you. Fadar al-haram, don't be scared to admit you have areas of improvement and support one another to get to those places. Fasil al-arham, try to fix and heal your inward from relationships that have been broken. Fa'altif bil-aytam, be gentle to the orphan. Do acts of charity. Be a reason that people have hope in this world, not the reason that people dread it. The month of Ramadan is just days away, hours away. Our Prophet would welcome it with his companions. It's a beautiful opportunity. Don't be scared. Embrace your full light. Embrace everything that makes you you. It's not about stomachs that are hungry or throats that are parched, but you have hearts that are in a state of real thirst, that are waiting to be quenched. And so you rest through exertion. You rejuvenate and replenish parts of yourself that the world has you forget in the rest of the year. You do so with an anticipation that there is a God watching over you that believes in you more than you believe in yourself. And all he's asking of you is to try your very best. Don't let any moment of this month pass by without you doing just that, just your very best. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. Inshallah ta'ala, from tonight, for those who observe the Salat al-Tarawih, we're going to be beginning as soon as Isha comes in at around 8:40 on the 5th floor of this building in the Grand Hall. Open to everybody. Please do attend if you can. Inshallah ta'ala, tomorrow we'll be starting with our first iftar, also be happening on the 5th floor. We're going to be doing these programs between the 5th floor here and the 10th floor of the Kimmel Center. We're going to need a lot of help, a lot of volunteers, but we also need for you to take advantage of it, because the way you benefit from your Ramadan individually increases the benefit of our community collectively. The heightened consciousness and awareness, the rejuvenation, replenishment brings a stronger version of you back to all of us. And when we are all empowered and emboldened through that, we make amazing things happen as best as we can. There's going to be a halaqah every night before iftar. You should come and make time for it if you can. There's going to be opportunities to engage in community service on a weekly basis during the day. Be a part of those gatherings. Let yourself see how you can be a means of benefit for others. And at the end of it, we intend to pray the Eid prayer in Washington Square Park, where this community has not been together for 2 years in Ramadan. And I know for myself and so many here, we are so excited to be able to be with each one of you and to stand 30 days from now in celebration of everything that we individually achieved and everything that we intend to achieve as a community. So make sure you are here and take from it as best as you can, inshallah ta'ala. It's a gift for us to take advantage of. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah, and beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present here and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, whether we are Muslim or come from a different walk of life, Ya Rabbi, if our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all of their hearts that are gathered here, only at this time, at this place, then gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Ya Allah, Ya Alim, knower of all things, you who has known each of us before we even knew ourselves, help us through this coming month of Ramadan to know ourselves better. Help us through this blessed month to know our strengths and to live by them, to know our character and how to increase it, to know our pains and how to heal them, to know our value and how to share it, to know our blessings and how to be grateful for them, to know our wants and to see where they conflict with our needs, to know our shortcomings and how to confront and defeat them, to know how to really forgive all those who have wronged us and to actually forgive them, to know how to seek forgiveness from those that we have wronged and to then go out and seek it, to know what charity is by being generous with our wealth and our time, to know what integrity is by being honest and truthful, and to know what goodness is by extending our hands without qualification to all those who are in need. Help us through this blessed month to know who it is that we are and not let the people we are today be afraid any longer to meet the people we can be tomorrow. And through it, Ya Rabbi, help us to know you and your mercy, to know you and your love. Make us from amongst those who live with true contentment every day of our lives, and grant us an abode in the place of ultimate contentment in the world beyond this one. Allow for our beings to be filled with self-love that we can go out and share with others, rather than a love of ourselves that keeps us from being everything that we are able to be. When our hearts are heavy and we are filled with darkness, bring people to us who illuminate us through kindness, compassion, and love. Make us always the reason that people have hope in this world, and never the reason that people might dread it. Help us to know the realities of those that are around us by overcoming whatever it is that exists within us that keeps us away from one another. Through this coming month of Ramadan, perfect us inwardly so that we are victorious in the battle that is taking place every day for control of our hearts. Give us victory over selfishness and remove from within us any feelings of arrogance or racism. Increase us in brotherhood and sisterhood so that we might together take on every challenge that we individually face, and together celebrate every success and achievement. Give us hearts that feel anger whenever any one of our sisters are abused, and the confidence and compassion needed to build for her what she is in need of. Give us hearts that feel sadness when any one of us loses a loved one, and the gentleness and mercy needed to be there for them fully. Give us hearts that feel joy whenever any one of us succeeds, and the love and hope needed to celebrate that achievement. Give us hearts that are not lost in the pursuit of this world, but hearts that are bold enough to be drawn to the world beyond this one. Let our rage be only at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that we will work for justice, equality, and peace. Let our tears shed only for those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation, and conflict, so that we will reach out our hands to comfort them and change their pain into joy. And let our successes be many, as we make a difference in this world by doing the things which others say cannot be done. Help us to see this world always through hearts that have benefited from Ramadan, to see the goodness in all those who are around us, and to never be those who elevate ourselves by denigrating others. Help us to silence fear and abolish anxiety, to overpower indifference and break away from greed, to eliminate arrogance and defeat racism, to be bold enough to ask of you to make us those who only do that which is good. For any pain and torment that we might have faced, through it give us ease, understanding, and facility. For any suffering that we have sustained, bring to us understanding and strength of healing. Grant us always a life that is filled with a wellness of our minds, our bodies, our spirits, and our hearts. Make this coming month of Ramadan a month of rejuvenation for us, a month of renewal for us, a month of replenishment. It is not our stomachs that will be hungry, nor our throats that are thirsty, but our hearts are parched and long to be revitalized. Give us through the coming weeks a much needed peace that we long for, even if we don't realize it. And throughout this coming month, help us to make decisions always through our hearts and never at their expense. Put into our hearts a desire for nothing less but to take from this Ramadan all that it is we can, and remove from our hearts anything that distracts us from it. Make us those who seek out, witness, and benefit from Laylatul Qadr. And in our standing in the nights, help us to remember all those who are forgotten, whether by us alone or the world around us. Give us the energy to stand into the night and the sincerity to make dua for all those who are special to us. Through this Ramadan, increase us in our Islam. Through this Ramadan, increase us in our Iman. Through this Ramadan, increase us in our Ihsan. Make the Quran our guide and grant us a deep understanding of it. Make the Sunnah our goal, both inward and outward aspects of it. And make our prayer our anchor, granting us the true sweetness that salah and dua only can. Make the best of our deeds the last of our deeds. And let not any one of us leave this world other than in a state that is most pleasing to you. Ya Allah, bless us in this month of Ramadan and make each one of us from amongst those who gain from it. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وأقيم الصلاة.
If you would like to listen to more, please donate to www.icnyu.org/donate. For more of our virtual programs, go to www.icnyu.org/classes. If you have any questions, email us at info@icnyu.org.